Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Morgan Ravenberg here. Live stream number 11. Just give me a second to get started. Okay, everything is fine. I am live now. Let me just check to see if I am online correctly. You know the drill. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we're good to go. This is live stream number 11. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. In live stream number 10, I discussed pagan gods and whatnot. And today I'm going to continue. Before I continue, I need to apologize for the granular visual, the granular visual quality of my stream. But it's nighttime in my location, so the light that you're seeing is solely artificial light, so no natural lighting. So hence that. I think you can see the light in the background too. Okay, one of my light spots, seeing providing my room with light, of course. In my location, it's currently 3:50 a.m., so 10 minutes to 4 a.m. I did get some sleep from 10 to 2 approximately, so hence me doing a, a live stream in the dead of night, at least locally. People in Europe have no problem. In Europe, it's already what? It's already morning in Europe. It's already close to 9 or something. It's already close to 9 a.m. and whatnot. In any case, yeah, let me continue. Okay, I just need to point out too that I don't care really who is online and whatnot. This is just spontaneous, and I'm just going to continue right away with the discussion. We're going to pick up where we left off, or I'm going to pick up where I left off with pagan gods, since I wasn't able to cover all the other pagan gods I did in the last live stream number 1 yesterday. So I'm going to continue today. I wasn't able to mention Egyptian pagan gods yesterday, so we're going to start with those. So we're going to start off first with Osiris. I'm going to start reading my article, and then I'll provide feedback on said article and whatnot. Hi again, and this time, as the header already indicates, I will write about my latest invocation and also my first time summoning a pagan god, namely Osiris. For those that do not know him, Osiris is the Egyptian god of the afterlife and resurrection, to name a few. Before I get down to his skills and ability, I must mention that I've noticed a significant difference between a god and a celestial or an infernal spirit. The latter one is considerably stronger and the energy is stronger. When referring to infernal spirits, I mean genuine ones, so not the ones with a pagan origin or background. With Osiris, it felt more human-like, the aura. No offense intended towards him, of course, he is still great. But this is personally, for me, another reason why I prefer angels and demons over pagan gods. I don't think I'll ever deliberately work with one in the long term while I prove myself wrong. Now let's get down to it. Osiris corresponds to Venus with Taurus as a zodiac sign. His specialty lies in the fact that he's skilled at garnering an income and producing money in a stable and productive fashion for the occultist. He is also skilled in trading and exchanging in aforementioned areas. He's perfectly suited for pagans that have business ventures or dreams, or any occultist that has or wants involvements in stocks, banking, accounting, etc. The only drawback to his method of working is that it will take a while for results to manifest. Think of it like a long-term investment that is relatively safe and as free from risk as can possibly be. Regarding appearance, there was no surprise there either, since he appears just as depicted, a green-skinned pharaoh. He replied to my request pretty quickly, only an hour or two after the ritual. I noticed as I lay on my bed watching a sitcom the strong scent of a uniquely sweet aroma, almost like roses, and him briefly appearing afterwards, but vague. Difference again, since the other ones I mentioned at the beginning appear clearer, and him confirming my research on him and his appearance. To invoke him, one needs to follow the same procedure decided in previous volumes of this article series and work with Venus correspondences. So the number 7, green, rose incense, etc. The oration I used can be viewed below, as well as his seal, which I combined with his hieroglyph. One last thing, I thought that he was going to be Saturnian in nature due to the nature of the things he was worshipped for, but just goes to show you that that is not always the case. So he has no related skills whatsoever. Okay, so yeah, there you go. Okay, that was the first time That was the first time I summoned a. Osiris was my very first pagan god summoning. It's the first time that I summoned a spirit that wasn't celestial or infernal. And Santix Mendes Osis and Occult Experience have joined us. Occult Experience was here from the beginning. Santix, we are going to pick up where we left off yesterday. So it's the same thing, pagan gods, but this is part two. I wasn't able to cover a good deal of gods, for example, Egyptian gods yesterday, so I'm going to cover them today. This is just to keep you updated, since you're asking what the topic's about. So yeah, regarding Osiris, he was my first god that I summoned. He was the very first one, and I noticed the difference right away. Okay, energy level is lower than compared to angels and demons. The energy feels more human-esque or human-like, and other noticeable things. Osiris is still good for people that want to work with the stock market. He's Venusian and corresponds to, if I remember it correctly, let me check. Hold on, let me check. Specifically relating to the degree to 12 degrees in it corresponds to 12 degrees in Taurus. So yeah, that is it on Osiris. That's it on Osiris. Let's see if I forgot anything. Nothing really. For the few people that are online and that are watching this live stream, do you guys have any questions relating to Osiris? Any questions in terms of what you think of Osiris and whatnot? I remember too that back in that day, I was still a member of. Back then, I was still a member of a. I was still a member of a forum, an online forum, and they didn't like it when I shared this article because they couldn't believe that Osiris, which they traditionally saw as ruler of the dead and whatnot, blah blah blah, ruler of the underworld, that is only good for basically money-related ventures. And yeah, like I said at the end, it just goes to show you, okay, just because a spirit was venerated or a spirit was worshipped for a certain thing, does not mean that he automatically has qualities or attributes relating to those. It is unwise and ignorant and naive to think so. I'll be right back. I need to take a quick bathroom break and then we'll continue. I'm gonna turn the camera off, but don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. Santix Mendoza says, I am going to cover your question when I get back. I'll be back in a couple of seconds. Yeah, I am back, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see that you two, or that people that just arrived in the stream, watching the stream, are talking to themselves, keeping themselves entertained. Yeah, like I said, the topic that I just covered, or better said, the one of the topics I covered. The topic as a whole is pagan gods, and I'm going to discuss pagan gods similar to this previous live stream, and I was just discussing Osiris. Does anyone have any questions relating to Osiris? Santix Mendes Osis, you were asking me before whether the Egyptian pantheon is strong like Greek and Norse or is lower. It's a bit lower, not too low, but still a bit lower, to be honest. Anthony DePovi, you're new, relatively speaking. I've never seen you before on a live stream. Would it be bad to work with Osiris if 12 degrees Taurus is in your 12th house? It doesn't matter what your what under what constellation you were born, astrologically speaking. You can work with Osiris, okay? Uh, okay, yeah. Okay, and so no one has any questions relating to Osiris. Like I said again in the article, Osiris has no affinity for necromancy. What he was worshipped for, at least partially, since he was ruler of the underworld and whatnot. Blah blah blah. But no, I thought in the beginning too that Osiris was going to be Saturnian, specialty working with the dead and whatnot. Blah blah blah. But nope, that's not the case at all. The only real worthwhile skill that Osiris has is relating to, since he was also worshipped for fertility reasons. And I understand that too. Most likely, the full fertility aspect, him being worshipped fertility wise for having crops grow and prosperity and all of that, was a lot more practical. His position as ruler of the underworld wasn't worshipped as much. He was by default seen as the ruler of the underworld, but not to the point where people really went out of their way to emphasize that was the case. So hence his attributes. So it makes sense. Um Occult experience is asking me whether I've worked with the spirit before. With Osiris, no. Osiris was a one-time summoning. I personally have never worked with Osiris. Oh, Santix Mendoza says an ancient historian Herodoto. He claims the existence of an even ancient pantheon of 8 deities. Okay, I'll let you finish because you're talking in bits and pieces, which I understand. Just go ahead, and I'll get to your question once everything is clear. Occult experience is asking me, what if you have a high risk investment portfolio? Do the stocks and bonds need to be safe? It doesn't matter. You can just work with Osiris for specifically investment, trading, and whatnot. So the nature of the investment that you intend on investing in doesn't really apply or matter. Okay. Anyone have any other questions on Osiris? Osiris is one of the more popular Greek god, more popular Egyptian gods, and I remember too that the story of Osiris is that he was killed by, I think, Horus, a jealous brother, or Seth, one of the two, I think Seth. And his wife placed, I think Isis, his mother, Isis, or his wife, I don't know, placed his body back together. And it's also symbolic, that story, in short, of resurrection. Osiris was like the Egyptian Jesus, if you will. Okay, I'm assuming no one has any other questions anymore relating to Osiris, since no one's asking any. We're going to move on then to Thoth, Thoth. I'll be doing Thoth here, the Egyptian god of writing, communication, etc. He was one of their major gods and very important. Thoth is mercurial and it corresponds to 28 degrees in Gemini, which stands for confidence. This means that engagement with him depends on you as an operator. Lose confidence in yourself and he'll tone it down a bit too. He can help you with all things regarding communication, e.g. writing, math, etc. All things attributed to him. And I'm going to cite, the Egyptians credited him as the author of all works of science, religion, philosophy, and magic. The Greeks further declared him the inventor of astronomy, astrology, the science of numbers, mathematics, geometry, and land surveying, medicine, botany, theology, civilized government, the alphabet, reading, writing, and oratory. They further claimed he was the true author of every work of every branch of knowledge, human and divine. When Todd showed himself just now, he told me that he does not like to be disturbed by others unless they're really serious in working with him. Appearance is typical too, as depicted in general, a half man, half ibis thing, or half man, half baboon. The latter is second though. Yeah, and that is it on Todd. Anyone have any questions on Todd? Even the tarot card deck specifically that was developed, there's a tarot card deck that's named after Todd called the Todd deck. Occultists are familiar with this. These are simply tarot cards that are designed in a specific way. Santix Minnesota says, my question is if you know of the first Egyptian pantheon or the spirits tell you something. No, no, no. Relating to what you were discussing just now, no. No. I'm already noticing, I think that this this live stream is going to be a bit quicker, which I don't mind too. Oh, David B says, hey Marino. Hello, David B. Santix is asking whether Todd can teach languages. Yes, he can. Okay, anything that you need on a day-to-day basis. I can teach you every language known to man, more or less, he says. But I prefer it that people only call upon me when they're serious. I don't like my time wasted. So yeah, David B is asking me whether it's not a bit early there. You want to see what the local time is, David B? If you had been present since the beginning of the stream, I said that it's my first time recording in the dead of night. Oh crap! I want to show you guys the time, but my wallpaper isn't suitable. Fuck it. It's 4:09. It's 9 minutes past 4 a.m. in Suriname, and I don't care. I slept from 10 to 2, so I'm relatively speaking well rested. I just woke up at what 2:30, and can't sleep. So hence me being wide awake, and that's also why you're seeing the light being on in the background. And sorry again for the bad quality, the video, the webcam quality, the bad video quality, but that's because I am running on artificial lighting right now. So no natural lighting in the background that outside provides. David B is saying that he just got on stream. Yeah, in any case, David B, as well as for anyone else that's listening, we're covering Pagan Gods II. I can't remember if you were present at yesterday's live stream, but that was Pagan Gods Part 1. I didn't manage to cover all pagan deities, so this is basically Part 2 on the same subject. I'm going to continue covering gods. The example is, for example, that I wasn't able to squeeze in Egyptian gods yesterday, and I am doing that now. I primarily discussed the Greek slash Roman and Norse gods yesterday. So today I started off with Egyptian gods. Occult experiences, do you feel more spiritually empowered at this time of night? No, no, I don't, okay? But I'd also like to ask people politely to stay on topic. I don't mind people asking me general questions, but do that in a miscellaneous live stream where you can ask me anything. But I prefer to stick to paganistic questions. So yeah. For me, just to elaborate a bit on what he asked. For me, it does not matter. Okay, I have no real sleep cycle or anything like that. That means that I have to wake up. If I have to wake up in the dead of night, I can easily wake up. Adversely, if I have to sleep during the day, I can easily sleep like a log. It does not matter to me. I sleep when I am tired, regardless of what time it is, whether it's daytime or nighttime. It does not matter. I'm not a 9 to 5 individual or conventional even. Santik is asking me, can you ask Tot if he still worships in, if he's still being worshipped in Masonry? He says he's not going to comment on that. That's for you to find out. Okay. No one has any questions regarding Tot. Then I'm going to move on to Isis. I'll be covering the Egyptian goddess Isis in this article. She is one of the most well-known in general worldwide. The Egyptians worshipped her primarily as a sky, nature, and protector goddess, and so on. See here for more information. Isis is Venusian, unsurprisingly, 14 degrees in Taurus, which stands for movement, and therefore has her forte in matters concerning nature, earth, and to a lesser extent, weather. Practical applications for money and agricultural endeavors, for example. She is swift in her way of working, so one won't have to wait long for results. Another thing she was revered for is her magical prowess or affinity in magic. Do keep in mind that this is not her forte based on her aforementioned attributes. Based on what I've read, it would seem that she was counted on for nature and feminine based matters more than protection and magic. But that doesn't mean, of course, that one should rule these traits out. It's interesting to note that the Order of the Golden Dawn's first temple partially bore her name, and they have a strong link with Isis. This book, I give a link in the article, also supports that. The book the link leads to a book by the Golden Dawn called Isis Magic, Cultivating a Relationship with the Goddess of 10,000 Names. Lastly, Isis appears as a beautiful woman dressed in Egyptian wear with a bird-like headdress to me, with an orb staff and has a friendly, gentle touch. She did go topless for me for a moment and told me that this is because she knows that I have a strong sex drive. Um, I also give the link on an article. This article is also interesting, denoting why she is depicted as having wings, despite the fact that it was obvious to me. Oh, so yeah, and that link elaborates specifically on why Isis has wings. It's called Why Does Isis Have Wings? Santik says thanks and thank him, referring to Tot. So does anyone have any questions on Isis? My 2 cents on Isis is that yeah, Isis was one of the main gods of the Egyptians. Practically everyone out there knows Isis. You have businesses all across the world that are that bear her name, and even the notorious terror network ISIS or IS is whether undeliberately or indeliberately or deliberately named after her. But thus, ISIS is very friendly. Like I said, she's Venusian, which is not a surprise. She can help you in money and prosperity and acquiring all the good things in life. Isis appears simply as a beautiful Egyptian woman that is that's very fashionable and whatnot, and she's also very voluptuous, very beautiful. And yeah, she just looks like a stereotypical Egyptian woman back in the day. Only, like I said, she's like she looks like a Victoria's Secret model from Egyptian times, to put it that way. The same goes for her for someone that's close to her Mat, but I'll get to Mat in a second. So yeah, that is it on ISIS. Not a lot to say with ISIS. It's more what you see is what you get. ISIS also can also appear as a bird, an eagle specifically, that's completely brown, or just a general bird. Very strong and majestic and whatnot. And yeah, that also explains the headdress. Occult experience is asking me, can this spirit help someone with issues with flight? For example, learning to be a pilot, safe air travel, etc. No, to be honest, based on my own thinking, no, nothing. If you want a spirit that can help you with flight, then you need to consult a Martian spirit, a spirit that deals with giving you courage in dangerous situations or risky situations. Just because Isis appears as a bird partially does not mean that that she can do so. Okay. The article that is present, the link that's present in the article that I was referring to, called this, "Why Does Isis Have Wings?" elaborates on why she is depicted sometimes as a bird or at the very least as having wings. Isis was, as far as I remember it when reading the article, in some way or shape connected to birds, or that was her animal, if you will. David B is asking me if someone works with her as a man, won't you get feminine energy like with the one you discussed yesterday, Hera? No, she welcomes everyone, and you won't become feminine to the point where you'll turn into a gay guy or where you look like a woman. No. Okay, you'll become feminine in a healthy way, but the attributes are still attributes. Yeah. So I suggest you not be too scared of something like that. But of course, if you're a man that's already feminine, then you need to ask yourself whether Isis is good for you, or working with the goddess, any goddess is good for you. Santix is asking me whether pagan gods are more powerful on their temples and places of origin. This accounts for spirits in general. Okay, the core of their energies are surrounded near their altars and places of worship. So you'll notice that when engaging with them. This applies to all spirits, not just pagan gods. Hmm. Mhm. Oh, But for the rest, Isis is very strong, okay? Very strong, beautiful, majestic, and whatnot. Isis was basically the ideal woman to Egyptians, more or less. She wasn't the only one, but yeah, pretty much the ideal woman. And like I said, Isis is very beautiful, okay? Isis is very beautiful. Bluntly put, she's very doable, if you know what I mean. Oh, okay. Does anyone have any other questions on ISIS? Nothing? Nada? Okay. I'm gonna move on then to the next goddess, which is Maat, M-A-A-T. I'll be talking about the Egyptian goddess Maat today, the goddess that stood for positive aspects of mundane and daily life. So order, balance, fairness, honesty, and so on. Basically, proper etiquette. Maat appears as Isis, a winged goddess that looks a lot like her, but of course not exactly like her. To be honest, appearance-wise, I prefer Isis, but that's okay. Nothing else can be said about physical features. Interestingly, my dog's name was Natu, and I tease her sometime about being a canine goddess, and because they sound so familiar, Maat appeared at a later stadium, which I knew was going to happen. She's mercurial, 27 degrees in Gemini, stands for an artistic aspect and a powerful one at that. She's good for all things that deal with daily life, along with domestic life and related matters. Practical applications are money, family life, communication, short distance travel, and so on. Law and justice are also on the table, but not a strong suit. Still good for that, though. Interesting stories about her are here. Also prayers to Maat. I give links in the article. P.S. I share these since I have no real experience in working with her. So yeah, that was it. Maat is also like that. Maat is a lot like Isis, okay? But attribute-wise, you guys heard it. She's Mercurial, not Venusian, Gemini specifically, not Taurus, and whatnot. So does anyone have thoughts on Maat? I also remember Maat is exceptionally strong when it comes to the things that I discussed. I discussed about her. Um, hold on. Yeah, when it comes to matters relating to the household, then yeah, Maat is exceptionally strong for those matters. She is like the happy homemaker type, if you will. Santik says also race counts. How to say it? If I am a descendant of Egyptians, do I have more affinity to her? From a neutral perspective, yes, but intent is more important than anything similar to that, than any of those factors. So now, So let me know. Does anyone have any questions on math? Any questions on math whatsoever? I'm gonna move on if no one has anything to say about math. No one. I'm gonna give you guys a couple more seconds, and after that, we are going to move on. Oh. David B says, how are Egyptian gods in general more like neutral, friendly, neutral, comma, friendly? Yeah, Egyptian gods aren't intense. Generally speaking, Egyptian gods are more laid back. They're neutral, you know. They're not really, they're not intense, periods, compared to Greek or Norse gods. I think that the reason is that their followers were also like that. Their followers were also like that. The Egyptians lived under hot temperatures. Okay, I think even hotter than the temperatures that I have to endure here. So I understand them. They were more laid back. Egyptians didn't break a sweat unless it was absolutely necessary. Okay, I am going to move on. The next god that I'm going to be treating is the crocodile god Sobek. I will be covering the Egyptian deity Sobek, aka the crocodile god and ruler of the Nile, etc. I have no experience in working with Sobek, but I've looked into him in the past and I've heard from him via the media and in unusual ways, either for better or worse. Sobek is unsurprisingly lunar, Cancer 9 degrees, stands for maternal, and can be thusly very loving, caring, and compassionate, negating his more negative behavioral traits or aspects. He is one that holds back until he sees that this isn't necessary anymore and then will go full throttle. I have no real advice for people that want to work with Sobek. General rules apply here. An interesting video on him here detailing his nature. And then I have a video embedded that discusses Sobek, god of the Nile. Another one, albeit negative experience coming into contact with Sobek of someone that is haunted by him and almost possessed here. And then I give a link to an episode of the paranormal TV show Haunting, and I remember it. It's a man that goes to that visits an Egyptian Sobek statue in a museum in the U.S. and gets possessed by Sobek and just loses his mind and acts filled with rage and anger and blah blah blah. Long story short, relating to Sobek was simply since there were a lot of crocodiles in the Nile River, and the Nile River ran through Egypt. The He was basically god of the Nile. That's why he's seen as god of the Nile, and he's unsurprisingly lunar. Okay, Sobek is lunar because the moon rules water, and the Egyptians simply saw crocodiles and they turned one of these. They simply turned a crocodile, if you will, or the crocodile into a god, thereby subconsciously or indeliberately creating a god that has basically the aspects of a crocodile, but in a divine way. Uh, Thoughts on Sobek? Does anyone have thoughts on Sobek? It's pronounced Sobek. Santix Mendes Osis is asking me what he can do Sobek in terms of working with him. Sobek can simply help you with clairvoyant matters, generally speaking. He can help you with with domestic issues. He can also help you with water navigation. And that's pretty much it. Just double check. Yeah, strong lunar spirit. But this goes without saying, yeah. Nice everything, yeah. That's what Sobat can do. Generally speaking, Sobat appears small, okay? Kind of like a small creature that is almost as tall as two rulers, let's just say 60 centimeters, and he can become larger, but generally speaking, he chooses to appear that way with kind of like a dark aura surrounding him and almost shapeshifters, being shapeshifty in appearance. Just a general creature with the body of a crocodile, the head of a crocodile primarily, and the body to a lesser extent, kind of like a dwarf crocodile standing on two legs like a human being. Um, so yeah, that is it on Sobek pretty much. The story is an interesting one, I will say that. Santix Menace Osis is asking me, is saying a good spirit for sailors. David B is asking me related to his offering, can someone put crocodile-like things on his altar? Would it help? He says yes. That's obvious, he says. Not so obvious to occultists, but from a neutral perspective, obvious. Lisa Violet 777 has just joined the stream. Hello. So yeah, that is it on the Egyptian god Sobek. Let me see if I remember anything else about Sobek. No, nothing really. Nothing really. So yeah, it goes again. Like I said, it goes without saying. We all know that huge crocodiles. Anyone that watches the Discovery Channel knows that there are huge crocodiles near the Nile River that wait for buffalo to cross during migration season, and then they just chomp on them and pull them into the water, and it's food for them. And Sobek was simply the divine um, the divine aspect of the crocodile. A lot of Egyptians, and not just Egyptians, generally civilizations from those times, BC times, they regarded animals as being divine. So hence most spirits of them, or most deities, most gods that they worship, also appearing partially or completely as an animal, and or having some kind of spirit animal thing, a spirit animal aspect to it. They saw animals as divine. There's nothing else really that I have to say, so I'm gonna move on to the next thing. Set, one of the well-known ones. I'll be covering the Egyptian god Set today. He was known by the Egyptians as god of the desert, storms, disorder, violence, and foreigners. Set is solar in nature, 10 degrees in Leo, stands for persistence, and is a powerful one thus. He's an excellent business partner for the above mentioned affairs as well as all matters in general. I do need to point out, however, that Seth is not the type that knows order, as again mentioned before, so don't expect him to work neatly for you when engaging with him. In terms of results, regarding appearance, is a typical man with the head of a jackal or canine-like animal. Seth does have a gruff voice, but that is to be expected of his nature. I have no experience in dealing with Seth other than superficially, so that is it. Any thoughts on Seth? Seth is one of the most well-known gods out there. Um, Seth has a lot in common appearance-wise with Anubis, which I'm going to treat next. But in any case, relating to Seth, anyone have any questions on Seth? It can be spelled S-E-T or S-E-T-H. I prefer the latter, S-E-T-H. So yeah, Seth is a solar god. There is an order, an esoteric order called the Temple of Seth, and they use Seper a lot in their thing, X-E-P-E-R. They use Seper related name, the name Seper a lot, or the phrase Seper is used a lot with them. I think their website is seper.org or something like that. Set is, it's like the temple of Satan, but Set is used as a symbol for power and self empowerment and blah blah blah. They do work with Set, but only from such a perspective, basically an invocation, or they simply call upon Set, similar to to people, Christians calling upon God when the time basically calls for it, or when in times of distress. Yeah, Seth is solar, so you can imagine Seth is very strong, very nice, very persistent, and very self-determined. But and Seth ruled more for Egyptians. Seth was the negative aspect of. Seth was like their devil, their Satan. Seth is like the Egyptian devil, and hence them appointing him over all things that they saw as malevolent or as a risk. So sandstorms, disorder, chaos, strife, and foreigners. That last one, foreigners, the last attribute mentioned, just goes to show you that the Egyptians were also kind of xenophobic, undoubtedly due to the bad experiences that they've had with foreigners since they were toppled by the Romans. Egypt was overthrown by the Romans when Rome rose, and it became a Roman vassal state or vassal territory. So yeah, that's it relating Seth, and hence them being a bit xenophobic. But I understand them, of course. They have bad experiences, or they had bad experiences with foreigners, so hence them including that. Nevertheless, Seth is still very nice and strong, and someone can work with him for all of these things. But Seth can be like a loose cannon. So when working with him, don't expect him to be calm and cool about matters. He's not going to be a loose cannon all the time and unreasonable and impractical, therefore, to work with. But just don't be surprised when he does go off like a loose cannon. Um, David B is asking me, since he's also about chaos and it gets put into finances, can it get a bit risky, up and downs? Yeah. It reminds me of the Infernal Spirit RCL. Let's just say that Seth might do something. This might be an extreme example, but Seth might do something like burn down your house if you want money or if you need money in order for you to get it, and you'll have to move to another house. Those are the kind of things you can expect from Seth. It wouldn't be a surprise. So yeah, don't expect stability or things to happen in a quiet and productive manner with Seth. Okay, a couple of more seconds. If no one else has anything to say about Seth or regarding Seth, or no other statements or questions regarding or relating to Seth, then I am going to move on. And David B says, well, it's the quickest way. Yeah, it's the quickest way, but also the most extremist of ways. I don't think anyone would like it if their house burned down. I mean, if your house is insured and a spirit burns down your house, any spirit would burn down your house, honestly, if that's the quickest way. Of course, with you being safe and all your possessions were in there, then it's still kind of a burden. So it all depends, okay? It's comparing apples to oranges, comparing the pros to the cons, and which one weighs heavier or heaviest. For me personally, nah, that's going too far because then I'd have to replace all the things I bought. Of course, I get compensation for it. My insurance company, assuming that my house and all of its contents were insured, furniture and whatnot. It is insured, of course, but I don't think that I would like it. I don't think that I'd like. I just don't think I'd like it because I'd have to start all over again. I'd have to buy everything over again and so on when I'm already settled. So yeah. Occult experiences, I'm safe because I don't have any insurance. Okay. In any case, moving on. Anubis. I invoked Anubis a while ago for a customer of mine because he was approached by him in a dream for working out karma. I did so readily and he appeared in his traditional jackal form and so on. Funny thing is that he was panting the way dogs do when they're hot and sweaty, when they're hot and as they sweat via doing so. He only did so when looking to the sides, but not when looking at me. When doing so, he was stern and strict with yellow eyes and no pupils. Anubis is mercurial nature and corresponds to 18 degrees in Gemini and is very skilled, therefore, in genetic related matters, including things that are attributed to him. After the invocation, I felt his energy levels and they were moderate, and I went like typical pagan. I'm used to heavier energy from Celestials and Infernals. Nevertheless, he's still good for workings, and I wouldn't underestimate him. He's bound to have more than a few followers in the world, which empowers him. Yeah. So that is Anubis. Like I said, striking similarity to a striking resemblance to Seth, but they're still different, of course. They're still different. Seth is solar, Anubis is mercurial. And yeah, Anubis deals with all the things attributed to him. If you just look up Anubis in his Wikipedia page, you'll see the general things that are attributed to him. Things of an everyday nature, and yeah, Anubis can help with that. David B says, but can you tell him to not go into extremes? You can, but it's contradictory to his nature. You're still referring to Seth. It's contradictory to Seth's nature, so yeah. I would not expect him to be able to fulfill your wish. He might be able to tone it down, but just a smidgen. Oh, okay. Does anyone have any questions on Anubis? Anubis is also a well-known Egyptian god. Anubis is shown in pop media too and whatnot. Anubis has Anubis also covers necromancy, or basically dealings with the dead up to a certain extent, since Anubis assisted Osiris. Um, can Anubis help with necromancy? Yeah, Santix Osis asking. He says he can, but to a moderate extent. He's not gonna lie, and he's honest. It's not his specialty, despite that it was one of his appointed titles. David B says, how strong is his necromancy skill since he is about it? Okay, I just answered that question. Anyone else have any other questions? Oops. No other questions, ladies and gentlemen, relating to Anubis. So yeah, I'm still waiting a bit for people to ask questions. If you guys do not have any questions on Anubis, then we're gonna move on. Hold on. If I also need to state that I'm pretty much done with Egyptian gods. So I'm going to move on. If no one has any other questions relating to the Egyptian gods and all the gods that I treated just now. David B says, when I read about his Wikipedia, I see a name, Sokar. Is he related? Who, Anubis? Can you ask one of them if pyramids were made by men? Yes, they were made by men. Isis says jokingly, no, by aliens. Yes, the pyramids were made by men. Let me see. David B. Sokar. No, Sokar is different. When I just look up Sokar, he was a falcon god in Egyptian mythology. Sokar, known as Seker, or in Greek Sokaris or Sokaris, was a Memphite god of the dead. He was also the patron workers who built an acropolis and the craftsmen who made tomb artifacts and of those who made ritual objects and substances used in mummification. He was simply a another pagan god, but not really a one of the most well-known ones. Not one that I remember in any case. Santik says, yeah, ISIS is the best. And I agree. ISIS is indeed the best. Anthony de Povi is asking me, what do you think a good question to ask you would be? A good question is relating to the topic at hand. Okay, if you have a question about Egyptian gods or any specific god that I've discussed, then yeah, go ahead. If not, then save it for another live stream, a general live stream where miscellaneous questions are discussed, unless it's of a personal nature or unless the question is of a personal nature or a business nature. If so if you want to ask me something personally or something relating to business, you want to place an order with me or something, you need help magically with something, then you can ask me. That is an exception. David B says, are Egyptian gods, their energy comparable to Aztec ones? No, I refrain from using comparisons, okay? Egyptian gods are just what they are. They're Egyptian. And the same goes for their power level. So there's no need really to compare power levels. It's not all about power. Okay, no questions at all on the Egyptian pantheon as a whole. If no one has any questions, then I am going to move on. No one has questions. Okay. Occult experience says I have a question. Then out with it. Santix is asking me who's the most funny and human-alike humor god. Who is the most funny and human-alike humor god you know? The funniest god I know, I have no idea. I haven't come across any god that is funny to the point where I just laugh all day. No. All spirits are capable of humor and have a sense of humor depending on certain things. So yeah, out with it. Occult experience. If you have a question, don't keep me waiting, please. Um. So yeah, I'm waiting to move on. So if you're gonna ask your question, ask it now, because I want to move on from Egyptian gods and Egyptian pantheons. Oh yeah, I mean the Egyptian pantheon, of course. Does sitting inside a pyramid amplify one's connection to an Egyptian god? Occult experience is asking me. Isis says yes. So that's it. Santix is asking me, so are they emotional like us? Yes, gods are also capable of, spirits are also capable of displaying emotion, but not in a weak way. Not in the weak way that we do, being vulnerable to or displaying weaknesses or weak emotions that are detrimental to their being as a whole. Nah. They display emotion, but in a more stale way, being more colder, and yeah, that's it. Oh, like fear and such. No, yeah, it's an example. Yes, they don't show fear. No. They're too advanced and too enlightened for that. Specifically, celestial and infernal spirits. So yeah, fear is not something they have. They will just be displaying. Okay, enough. I'm gonna move on. I am going to discuss Babylonian spirits, specifically the Babylonian pantheon. And I'm going to start off with my favorite one, Pazuzu, also the most popular one. As I mentioned in another research files, I started researching weather spirits, and the first one that I had my eye on and felt drawn to after reading something somewhere about him was Pazuzu. In short, he is an Assyrian or Babylonian demonic god that specializes in altering the weather, storms, drought, etc., and protection. Read more about him here, and I'm going to read a snippet. Pazuzu is an Assyrian Babylonian demonic god who was most popular in the first millennium BCE. He was the son of Hanbi, also Hanba, king of the demons of the underworld and brother to Humbaba. the demon god protector of the cedar forest in the Epic of Gilgamesh, who is killed by the heroes. He was the demon of the underworld, where all demons were thought to reside, in control of the west and southwest winds, which he brought famine during the dry season, and in the rainy season, tearing storms and locusts. As he was the force behind the destructive winds and their threat, he was also considered the best defense against them. Similar in this way to the Egyptian god Set, prayers to Pazuzu were intended to divert his natural inclination towards destruction to the more benevolent ends of protection. Since it was clear he had great power to harm, it was thought he was equally potent in protecting one from the very danger he presented. Pazuzu is the most famous Mesopotamian demon in the present day and likely the only one people have ever heard of. As scholar Stephen Bertman notes, though short on pizzazz, Pazuzu made it to Hollywood. He is the only Mesopotamian demon to have starred in a movie called The Exorcist. In the 1973 horror film based on a 1971 novel by William Peter Blatty, Pazuzu is the demon who possesses the Linda Blair character and is associated with the Christian Satan and the forces of evil. Even so, although he was never considered the most benevolent of supernatural beings in ancient Mesopotamia, and was certainly regarded as an evil demon, he was not evil incarnate and was frequently invoked for protection from evil. He was particularly powerful in protecting pregnant women and children from the demon goddess Lamashtu, who preyed on unborn and newborn babies. The term demon in a modern day always carries with it the connotation of evil, but this was not so in the ancient world. The English word demon is a translation of the Greek word daimon, which simply means spirits or meant spirit. A daimon could be good or evil depending on its intentions and the results of a visitation. In ancient Mesopotamia, as in other cultures of the ancient world, demons were often sent by the gods as punishment for sin or to remind one of one's duty to the gods and others in one's community. Demons were not always evil, and even those who were, like Pazuzu, were still capable of good deeds. And that's it on my man Pazuz. And now going back to my article. Pazuzu is Saturnian in nature, corresponds to 23 degrees in Capricorn, and has a hint of Aquarius, specifically 20 degrees in Aquarius. In this case, his former attribute serves for protecting and chasing away evil spirits, and the latter for weather changes. I tested out his powers by invoking him and asking him for rainfall that was a nuisance in my neighborhood or region to cease, since it rained heavily multiple times a day. I had 2 weeks in mind, but he said that a week is the best that he could do for me. Here is the data below before and after the ritual, which was done on July the 1st, 2017. Before, the weather forecast said nothing but rain. After the ritual was clear skies. Rain gradually decreased, and the last 3 days have been completely free of rain with really nice weather. We're talking about cloudless weather, nothing but the sun shining, and almost a perfect weather locally. Since it's usually past 30 degrees locally, comparable to what Pazuzu did, it was 22 to 23 degrees. The sun was shining, there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and at the same time, it was brisk outside, the ideal kind of weather that someone imagines. You can clearly see the difference in forecast before ritual. Uh, I'm content and therefore deem this operation a success. My divinatory readings did indicate that I was overreaching myself though, and the fact that he told me that 2 weeks isn't doable confirms that. Regarding appearance, Pazuzu appeared and took on a multitude of forms during ritual, his statue shape and that of a Zulu warrior. He spoke with a harsh voice for the statue and just like a plain African man for the warrior. What annoyed me slightly is that while in warrior form, he kept moving and dancing around. His energy felt paganish and reminds me of the fact that I am summoning just that a pagan god, but it was stronger than I'm used to from gods. The results, of course, are always, as always, matter, and that's there. Very nice, and thank you, Pazuzu. I'll keep you in mind for related affairs, definitely. Despite the fact that you're not my number one choice, P.S. No seal was used, since I don't know of any, and he told me it's not necessary. So yeah, that is it on Pazuzu. Pazuzu is definitely one of my most favorite. He's, I think, my most favorite Babylonian spirit. And yeah, as the article that I read for you guys in the link in my own article, the notes, Pazuzu was seen as an evil force. He was seen as the bringer of plague, pestilence, drought. So when crops dried out, Pazuzu was blamed, and they therefore worship Pazuzu. They therefore worship Pazuzu. They therefore worship Pazuzu as a means of staving off said droughts, which is makes sense, you know. And at least the Babylonians were smart enough, or the Mesopotamians were smart enough to do so, because yes, it's tit for tat. It's two sides of the same coin. If someone is capable of dealing out destruction, then peace should also be possible, generally speaking. Not that that is, not that that has to be the case. Yeah, in any case, Pazuzu has he's Saturnian in nature, strong Capricornian and Aquarian traits. Capricorn is a reference to him being able to chase away evil spirits. Pazuzu was also summoned, since he was an evil force himself. They thought that it was like fighting fire with fire, and Pazuzu was also asked to help and protect people from other evil spirits. And the Aquarian aspect, his Aquarian aspect, one that he's exceptionally skilled at, is the weather, since he was worshipped as a weather god. And yeah, the results speak for itself. I remember this operation. When I carried out this operation, he appeared first in statue form, after that Zulu form. He appeared like an African warrior. He kept dancing up and down. And he told me, nah, 2 weeks, that's a good one. Nah, a week is the most that I can offer you. And this was good, since I did not since this such a project, asking someone to change the weather spirit is a heavy project. It's not something simple. And I only offered him food, honestly, just one basic home cooked meal, the same thing I ate that day. And I was simply bothered. It bothered me that it rained, that weather was bad, and that it rained 2 to 3 times a day. Weather was kind of grim outside, dark weather. And I just thought, okay, let me just test. I have nothing to lose. And my divinations, my own divinatory readings, told me that I was overreaching myself. And I thought to myself, overreaching in how? Okay, worst case scenario is that my divinatory readings mean that I'm overreaching myself in terms of wanting results. So we'll see. But in hindsight, it was simply the 2 weeks. I expected 2 weeks, and he told me, now a week is all I can give you. And I also remember the toll it took on me. The toll it took on me was so heavy because Pazuzu drew my life's energy in order to accomplish the working. He did so, but partially, he's telling me, made it so that I slept longer. I'm used to sleeping maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, but back then I slept honestly close to 12 hours a day. I still remember that. I literally slept half a day. I woke up in the afternoon when going to bed at nighttime, 10, 11 p.m. So yeah, but yeah, the weather was just beautiful. Okay, picture perfect weather. I just loved it. I thought to myself, God, this is how weather is supposed to be here locally all the time. The sun was shining, but the sun wasn't, the solar beams or solar rays were not beating down on you. It wasn't 35 degrees and up. The sun was shining. There wasn't a cloud in the sky in the entire city, and there wasn't. The temperature was very, very pleasant. It was kind of like an air conditioner temperature, 23 degrees, between 20 and 30 degrees. It was kind of literally the ideal weather, exactly right in the middle, none of the extremes. And I was very happy with Pazuzu's work, definitely. So yeah, and relating pop media references, Pazuzu is very popular. He's the only Babylonian goddess, so that's that popular as far as I know. That he appears in books, in movies, and whatnot. Pazuzu is often it's a misguided notion or a misguided appearance. Pazuzu is seen as a demon, and in that movie, The Exorcist, the iconic movie, The Exorcist, the classic one, Pazuzu was seen as the demon that inhabited the girl that kept puking up blood when being possessed, and so on. And no, in reality, it wasn't Pazuzu that possessed her, of course, which is bullshit because Pazuzu is a pagan god. He's not a demon. And yeah, that's pretty much it on Pazuzu. Nothing else that I can say, really. Nothing that comes to mind. Pazuzu's statue is still heavily used in pop media. Statue can easily be found online. In any case, Western society and pop media has demonized Pazuzu as being a demon, and he's equated with evil and basically the devil, blah blah blah. David B says, I was watching The Exorcist yesterday. LOL. Santix Mendes Otis says, Lord of the Winds, is he similar to Paralda? No, the Lord of the Winds simply refers to the weather aspect of his personality. Is he a good spirit for farmers since he deals with weather? Yeah, but there are other choices, potentially better choices. David B says evil against evil. Yes, exactly. Like I said, fight fire with fire. Yeah. Does anyone have any other questions about Pazuzu? Anyone have any other questions about Pazuzu? Hmm. David B is asking me whether I noticed any drawback except sleeping longer. No, I didn't notice any other drawback. But I need to point this out to people right away. If you want to change the weather, right, you need to honestly you need to be aware of the fact of the severity of your working. Changing the weather is not something that can be done willy nilly. Changing the things like rain and so on are not hard. Since rain itself is not hard to produce, then yeah, it's easy to do so, relatively speaking, occult wise, or to simply stave off rain, to withhold or postpone the weather rain wise, to prevent it from raining and having picture perfect weather, and to change the temperature. Although changing the temperature is a bit harder. But this reminds me of when I work with the angel Shalgiel, or when I contemplated working with him. It takes a tremendous amount of energy because I wanted to make it snow locally, and I definitely kill, since the local population is only used to 30-degree temperatures, I definitely kill most of them, which honestly I don't mind since I hate them. Uh, Vermin, but yeah, let's not get into that. In any case, yeah, it did not work, and the reason is simply that it's an immense project, okay? I mean, look at the severity, look at the magnitude of what you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to make it snow in a location that uh, you're trying to make it snow in a location that is tropical in nature. That's no close to, almost, you can call it a wonder almost. That's literally committing a wonder. But it can be done realistically. But obviously, needless to say, you'd require a shitload of energy. A lot of energy, a lot of offerings would have to be made. We're talking about thousands upon thousands of dollars in terms of results, in terms of offerings. Not that it's about money specifically, but quality wise, yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah. So that is it specifically when it comes to weather magic, or when it comes to changing the weather. And just overall, you should be aware of the magnitude of your of what it is that you're asking for when doing any magical or ritual work whatsoever. Rome wasn't built in a day, so don't expect something like that to be done just out of the blue. It can be hard, ridiculously hard. And I thought to myself, no, it's not worth it, because it would be cool though. Honestly, God, if I could make it snow here, it would be one of my. It would be definitely one of my most successful projects. Imagine making it snow in a country where, like I said, that's hot as fuck, and where where the temperature is African in nature. Man, it would be so cool. But like I said, I kill the majority. I literally kill off the majority of the population. They can't even deal with an air conditioner, so 20 degrees is already a challenge for them. So imagine me making the temperature dip all the way to European like degrees, or European like levels, 5 degrees or 0 degrees winter wise, let alone sub-zero degree temperatures. No, I'm not kidding. I would literally kill off 80% of the population here. The rest wouldn't even go outside because they're not even properly dressed for it. I myself personally, I love the cold. I just love it. I just, God, once I'm finally in Europe, I'll finally take a deep breath in winter time. Oh, I can finally enjoy snow too. Santix Mendes also says, but you also would kill fauna and flora. Yes, of course I would. But the thing is that the fauna and flora, so the wildlife and the vegetative life, would adapt, whereas the population would not be able to. The majority would die off. The 20% that would still be alive would adapt, but it wouldn't be in the long term. It would be something that would be temporary, maybe snow for a month or whatnot. Santix Menace also says nature doesn't deserve it, but yeah, but you don't have to worry about stuff like that. I won't be punished karmically, since I'm not doing anything wrong karmically. What I'm doing is universally allowed. Occult experience is saying, would you consider changing the weather as a means to change the outcome for an event? For example, bet the outcome of a football game knowing a certain team plays poorly in the rain or snow. Nah, that's too far-fetched. That's way too impractical. No, if you want to bet, if you want to engage in betting, which I strongly advise against, then just work with a spirit that can predict those things for you, the outcome of certain things, a spirit that's clairvoyant to the point where he can see into the future, or that's excessively clairvoyant to the point where he can tell you which team is going to win with a certain degree of accuracy. But I'm warning you right now, okay? Lilith is the one that I usually go to for stuff like that, and Lilith tells me something I already know. That's also ridiculously hard to accomplish, and it requires a good deal of offerings. Make no mistake. It's the equivalent of the example I just listed, or the example I just mentioned or remarked upon. So yeah, I don't advise on doing so. Okay, so if no one has anything else to say, I'm going to move on from Pazoos. Hmm. No one has anything else to say in Pazuzu or on what he specializes in, which is weather. Nothing, nada, zip. Okay. Moving on, then I am going to move on to Marduk. I'll be covering the Mesopotamian god Marduk in this volume. He was the patron god of the city of Babylon. Marduk is Martian, 15 degrees in Scorpio, unknown. And if one is to read his history and background and so on, it would become visible right away since he was worshipped for war-based matters primarily. What Marduk has to offer aside from offense and defense to the general person is progress within his or her own life. Covering nearly all aspects, the goal must be clear though. He appears as a warrior with a shield and a spear. Marduk is also mentioned in the Necronomicon spellbook. Anyone have any questions on Marduk? Marduk is also one of the metaphorically speaking, well-known ones in pop media, at least within music. So yeah. Uh, so yeah, Marduk can help. Marduk is a versatile one. He can help in all issues, associating with others, seeing to it that you build strong bonds with others, discipline, uh, improving one's intuition, you name it, daily affairs. Honestly, really improve your quality of life like no other. Okay. Marduk is not just a war god. Marduk, that's why he was also their primary god. He can improve your quality of life significantly. Also a jack of all trades, aside from primarily being a war god. So yeah, Marduk can help. David B is asking whether the 50 names of Marduk and the Necronomicon are credible. He says not really, but you can still use him. Like I said, intent plays a big part. He knows that you'll call out that you're calling out to him, and that is it. So the rest, no one has any questions on Marduk. I am waiting for questions on Marduk. Does anyone have any questions on Marduk? Let me check one thing. Marduk, David B is asking me what's his nature. What do you mean, what's his nature? He's Martian. Corresponds to Scorpio. 15 degrees in Scorpio. I have that. Santix Mendes also says I have that book. It combines Lovecraftian myths with spirits. Yes, exactly. Um, Like I said, your direction with Marduk needs to be clear. Oh, okay. Not a lot to say about Marduk, but nevertheless, he's quality god. Let me see. No one seemingly has any questions on Marduk, so fine. I'm going to continue. David B says there's even black metal band called Marduk. Yes, they're one of my favorite bands, definitely. Gods are mentioned a lot, especially in occult black metal. I mean, Babylonian, Mesopotamian gods, you name it. You name it, anything from Goeric spirits. One of my favorite bands was also Lord Belial. If you just look up Lord Belial on YouTube, you'll immediately find their songs. You name it, they really worship and sing all about Belial, which he greatly appreciates. Any attention is good attention. He says, B says. So yeah, that's what I meant. Okay, especially within underground music, heavy metal and occult metal or occult black metal. Then there is a lot of mention of pagan gods and of spirits in general. Pazuzu was one of them. You name it. Lord Belial has an album. I still have it in my own collection. Let me see, called in which they call upon a bunch of things. Lord Belial, where are you? It's my favorite album, The Black Curse, or just Black Curse. And the track title speaks for itself. Pazuzu, Lord of Fevers and Plagues, Ascension of Lilith, you name it. The other albums of them, Sons of Belial, Chariot of Fire, Mark of the Beast. It just goes on. Another of my one of my favorite bands is Apsu. I miss Apsu though. I don't think they'll be releasing any other album. Their last album was 2011. Self-titled one was in 2009 after a hiatus of a decade or so, and they have another one called Apsu with an Z instead of with an S. Apsu is also a god, but I forgot exactly which god it is. Um, Let me just check. Apsu god, pronounced ABZU. Oh, Apsu does not literally mean a god. It's a reference to Babylon Sumerian mythology. It's the name for fresh water from the underground aquifers. Let me see. Yeah, pretty much. And it's a reference to the god Enki. If B is asking me, will it help to play some of that music during a summoning? No. I'm telling you right now, no. Just because they sing about them does not mean that they're automatically connected. It's too noisy, to be honest. Let's be honest. Okay, I'm gonna continue now with Tiamat. I'll be covering the Mesopotamian goddess Tiamat. She is one of their primordial gods and the personification of the sea. See here for more information on her. I have no experience working with her, but her name fell on my mind today. When I checked up on her and what she has to offer, turns out she's Venusian, 28 degrees in Taurus, slash, this stands for desire. And in terms of what she has to offer me, I notice overall progress in daily life and money by forceful means, which will not happen in a pleasant manner for me in general. Her attributes make sense based on her background and so on. Interestingly, she seemingly was not worshipped extensively, was more of a first one. And I also can't find any sources that say otherwise. Regarding physique, she appears as an Arabian man dressed in purple, black-colored robe, looking a lot like Pasago. It's also normal based on the fact that the cultures they're derived from are similar to the very least, at the very least. Tiamat is very tall and doesn't talk a lot. She also threw some gel-like substance on the ground when I interacted with her, oddly enough. I have no interest in her, and this is only for documentation purposes. So yeah, that's it. Anyone have any thoughts on Tiamat? Santik says Tiamat is also a band. Yes, a lot of heavy metal bands are named after spirits that they consider cool and whatnot. You name it, okay? If I just, uh, I mean, if I literally just open up my Windows Media Player, you should see the band names that I have. I don't listen to heavy metal anymore. I do listen to it, but not past my collection because I can't find any good albums anymore. And I don't know, I've just outgrown it. Back in the day when I was still down in the dumps and my life was shit, I listened to heavy metal because it reflected my personality. Now I still love it, but in a different way. I don't really listen to it extensively anymore. Nevertheless, I still have a collection of music that I am not going to part with ever. But again, to just give you a preview of the names that I have on my collection: Apsu, Aosot, Anal Natrak. It just gives you a tiny Blood of Kingu, Behexen, Belphegor, Behemoth, Celtic Frost, Calm Hatchery, Dark Funeral, Dark Fortress, Downfall of Gaia, Drutk, you name it. These are bands that I have, so you can imagine. Oh, yeah, in any case, regarding Tiamat, no questions relating to Tiamat, nothing. I remember when I summoned, not that I summoned Tiamat, but when Tiamat approached me, she seems more. I also say that in my video on Tiamat. Tiamat is. Tiamat appears as almost like a tree. Like she seems kind of he seems inanimate. I call her she because she was just a personification of water, of course, like I state. But yeah, she is tall, or it is tall. Tiamat is tall, 2.5 meters at least. And when interacting with her, she comes off as being more inanimate. It's like you're discussing something with a boulder or a rock, something that isn't alive. Not in the sense that she's silent. She just comes off that way, not showing any emotion or similar. And yeah, most of the times when I see her, she throws some kind of gel-like substance on the floor. But I'm assuming that that's in relation to the fact that she's the personification of water. And yeah, for the rest, that's what Tiamat has to offer: money. Tiamat offers money, but in my particular case, the side effects would be unpleasant. She cause changes or instigate changes in my life that would not be pleasant in order to obtain said money or in order to improve my financial life. David B says, well, you said one other pagan god that is a personification of water. Can't remember which one. So yeah, let me know. Santix Mendes also says Behemoth rules. Yes, the band is nice, but I only like the album at the left hand of God. Really, the other albums are of lesser quality. In any case, that's it on Tiamat, the goddess or the god Tiamat. Uh, Let me see if I have any other things. Give me a second. David Bezos, but it's also like inanimate. I'm assuming you're referring to Apsu. Santik says they have a song called Bartzabel. I remember it heard while sleeping, and I think Bartzabel shot up in my dream. Yeah, you name it. Multiple spirits are discussed within, heavy metal, specifically black metal. So you guys know it. Does anyone have any other questions relating to Tiamat? A couple of more seconds, and I'm going to move on. And I think from now on, I'm not going to stick to any particular pantheon because it's impractical. I'm simply going to discuss pagan gods regardless of their background or which pantheon they belong to. David B says, yes, I think because those gods that are personified with oceans and such, from what you say, are pretty much inanimate. Yeah. It's not so much that they were seen as personalities or individualistic deities. They were simply a personification of a certain aspect of nature. But Tiamat is one of the ones that I've noted by far. See, Tiamat is the only, by far, the most inanimate one that I've encountered. It's like you're talking to a tree, literally a moving tree or a walking tree. In no way meant offensively to Tiamat. So yeah, no one has any questions relating to Tiamat. So fine, I am going to move on. I'm going to move on and I'm going to discuss Apep. Apep of Apophis was an Egyptian god equated with all things evil and malefic, e.g., pain, suffering, and related. Apep has asked me to cover him just now. That's why I paused briefly in case you guys didn't notice, because Apep appeared right next to me and he beseeched me or humbly asked that I cover him, and yeah, and he simply he says it's much appreciated. So yeah, Santix Menesosus is asking me whether I've worked with Shinto, the Shinto Japanese gods. No, I haven't. So yeah, let me begin. I don't really have an article on APEP. What I just said was pretty much all that I have to say. Planet Jupiter, zodiac sign Sagittarius, 0 degrees. Description: self-righteous and has a big ego on the negative side, but positively is skilled in law, religion, philosophy, education, long-distance traveling. Also has a sense of humor and is open to all, a non-discriminator, and also has Saturnian-like destructive abilities. Um, so yeah, that's how his name is pronounced, Apep or Apophis. And he appeared as a giant snake, okay? And that's how he appeared right next to me. It's like having a giant anaconda right next to me, 5 to 10 meters long. But I do not mind. He was yellow specifically, one of those yellow snakes. And he says, thank you, has a nice, pleasant voice. He reminds me of, he's like the Egyptian version of Lucifer. He reminds me of Lucifer, his voice. Voice is nice, calm, and cool. And there is an occult book that I have read in the past called the Book of Apep or the Book of Apophis. Let me see. Specifically the Book of Apophis, I think. I forgot, there was a book that I read, damn it. Hold on, let me try to look it up. Okay, just give me a second. Books on Apep. Oh, right, Apophis, a book by Michael Kelly. Yeah, I read this book. Just gonna give you guys an overview. A practical handbook of draconian left-hand path initiation. The primordial serpent lurks in the deepest, darkest roots of human consciousness. Each of its 7 head embodies a power which may be awakened within the psyche. Apophis outlines the transformative process whereby the human initiate becomes something much more than human. It provides the weapons necessary to win the war of consciousness against conformity. It openly teaches the means of immortalizing oneself. I remember reading this book. It's from 2010, Apophis, yeah, by Michael Kelly. But honestly, unless you're very much into the left-hand path, then you won't want to read this book. I read it back in the day when I was still a left-hand path enthusiast, an LHP enthusiast, and I lean specifically towards dark gods and whatnot. But Apep, honestly, is a bit impractical to work with. I'll get to that in a second. Let's just go over his lore. Apep, also spelled Apepi or Apep or Apophis, was the ancient Egyptian deity who embodied chaos and was thus the opponent of light and Maat, since Maat stood for order and truth. He appears in art as a giant serpent. His name is reconstructed by Egyptologists as Apap, as it was written PPY, and survives in later Coptic as Apop. Apep was first mentioned in the 8th dynasty and was honored in the names of the 14th dynasty kings, Apepi and of the greater Hyksos king Apophis. Development. Ra was the solar deity, bringer of light, and thus the upholder of Maat. Apep was viewed as the greatest enemy of Ra, and thus was given the title enemy of Ra and also Lord of Chaos. Apep was seen as a giant snake or serpent, leading to such titles as Serpent from the Nile and Evil Dragon. Some elaborations stated that he stretched 16 yards in length and a head made of flint. Already on a Nakada war bowl, a snake was painted on the inside the rim, combined with other descent and aquatic animals as possible enemy of a deity, possibly a solar deity who is invisibly hunting a big rowing vessel, hunting in a big rowing vessel. While in most texts Apep is described as a giant snake, he is sometimes depicted as a crocodile. A few descriptions of Apep origin in myth usually demonstrate that it was born after Ra, usually from its umbilical cord. Combined with its absence from Egyptian Christian myths, this has been interpreted as suggesting that Apep was not a primordial force in Egyptian theology, but a consequence of Ra's birth. This suggests that evil in Egyptian theology is the consequence of an individual's own struggles against non-existence. Worship. Ra's victory each night was thought to be ensured by the prayers of the Egyptian priests and worshippers at temples. The Egyptians practiced a number of rituals and superstitions that were thought to ward off Apep and aid Ra in continuing his journey across the sky. In an annual rite called the Banishing of Chaos, priests would build an effigy of Apep that was thought to be that were thought to contain all of the evil and darkness in Egypt, and burn it to protect everyone from Apep's evil for another year. The Egyptian priests had a detailed guide to fighting Apep, referred to as the book or the books of overthrowing Apep. In Greek, the Book of Apophis. The chapters describe a gradual process of dismemberment and disposal and include spitting upon Apep, defiling Apep with the left foot, taking a lance to smite Apep, fettering Apep, taking a knife to smite Apep, or putting fire upon Apep. In addition to stories about Ra's victories, the guide had instructions for making wax models or small drawings of the serpent, which would be spat upon, mutilated, and burnt while reciting spells that would kill Apep. Fearing that even the image of Apep could give power to the demon, and any rendering would always include another deity to subdue the monster. As Apep was thought to live in the underworld, he was sometimes thought of as an eater of souls. Thus, the dead also needed protection, so they were sometimes buried with spells that could destroy Apep. The Book of the Dead does not frequently describe occasions when Ra defeated the Chaos Snake, explicitly called Apep. Only Book of the Dead spells 7 and 39 can be explained as such. That is part of his Wikipedia section. Yeah. For the rest, Apep is Jupiterian, corresponds to 0 degrees in Sagittarius, and like I said, that 0 degrees in Sagittarius stands for selfish and self-centered personality, which Apep does have. I have spoken to Apep, and like I said, Apep is self-righteous and has a big ego on the negative side, but positively he is skilled in things, law, religion, higher educational matters, and long-distance traveling, so foreign traveling. He has a sense of humor and is open to all. He's a non-discriminator. So yeah, Apep is, you can work with Apep still if you feel attracted to him. He also has destructive abilities with Saturnian, which is Saturnian-like. And he likes to discuss things with people. And if you're somewhat of a philosopher, you'll enjoy talking to Apep. And the very fact that Apep simply friendly and politely and humbly asked me to cover him, then yeah, it speaks for itself. Apep, you can think of Apep as a career criminal, someone who commits the most, not in a negative way, of course, but let's just say, metaphorically speaking, a career criminal, someone who discusses things. How should I put this? Someone who is ridiculously intelligent and is capable of carrying out the most elaborate of crimes, for example, a bank heist or similar. But yeah, someone that also looks out for his own well-being and interests and will not hesitate just out of sheer intellect to screw you over in case that he gets the chance. So that's what Apep is about. I'm not gonna lie, Apep is a fascinating spirit. To the Egyptians, Apep was simply all things that could possibly be bad or malevolent, and they just made statues. And you heard it. You know, they did things like spit upon it. It was a ritual to live. It was literally an anti-Apep ritual that they held. Apep wasn't even worshipped or anything like that. Okay, he was done. He was done exactly the opposite. Apep was literally, I don't know what the opposite is of being worshipped. Apep was literally, I can't even say that Apep was negated or that he was, that they were apathetic towards Apep, because that would mean ignoring him altogether. But no, the rituals were literally anti-Apep rituals. Those were Apep rituals. That's the only mention of Apep. He just they spat on him. If you're not careful, they even shat on him. I think I don't think the Egyptians went that far, but it wouldn't surprise me if they literally took shits on Apep's statue. He's telling me they did on occasion, and now he has turned into a giant cobra, an extremely giant king cobra. But he's not intimidating, honestly. His aura is more neutral, his energy level. In any case, yeah, those are the things that they did. So the fact that Apep is such an intellectual figure is still surprising. In any case, yeah, that is what Apep is like, and he can still, anyone that seriously wants to work with Apep can do so. But I honestly would tell you to watch your back and proceed with caution, and also adopt the same moniker that he has, adopt the same way of working that he has. Stay focused on your own well-being, and it's still honestly not really. I don't want to deter anyone, but it's not really advised to work with APEP if you're looking for someone that to watch your back, someone that's trustworthy. Like I said, APEP in that regard is like a career criminal. There is no such thing as honor among thieves. So yeah, these the same way that thieves will screw each other over just to get a bigger piece of the pie. That will be the case for APEP. APEP will screw you over as long as it works out in his benefit, staying true to his nature. He says staying true and proud. He's not ashamed of that, nor should he be. Samael says he's not good for workings of a serious nature, but long time workings where trust is required. But he's good for one time summoning. So if you needed something one time, you could count on Apep, something short term. Yeah, but I wouldn't advise building an altar to Apep. At the very least, a temporary. At the most, I mean, a temporary altar, but nothing like that. Santix is asking me, he seems like an Egyptian Jormungan. Is he good for education in college? Yes, exactly. That's what I said. Occult experience is saying, would someone invoke Apep for illegal deeds? He says yes, very much so. Yeah. Aside from Satan, which generally speaking covers those things, like I said, fraud and things that you want to keep hidden. Satan also covers that, but Satan is very karmic. He works very karmically. Yeah, APEP is the pagan version thereof. Yeah, you can work with APEP for illegal deeds, but like I said, APEP, I just won't recommend it. APEP is, APEP is, how should I put this? APEP is a fascinating figure, definitely an interesting person to talk to, or an interesting deity to talk to, an interesting entity to talk to. He's the only one that I know that was hated so much to the point where they actually committed this held anti-him rituals. From all the pantheons, I can't think of a single one that was hated as much as Apep. But yeah, just goes to show you that they hated snakes too. That's one of the reasons that people hate snakes. I have a friend that hates snakes, and he says he just can't. I love snakes, but he just can't stand snakes. His entire skin crawls. He says they're creepy as fuck, and he just can't even. He can't even. I told him, okay, so if I want to really just mess with you, I want to fuck with you. If I really just want to torment you and traumatize you, all I need to do is just lock you in in the snake section of a local zoo, and just leave you there for a day, and even break a glass if need be, of one of so that one of these snakes can escape. You'll just die right there. I can already tell. But I understand him, okay? Snakes, unfortunately, snakes have had a bad reputation, not just within a pagan context, okay? In some cultures, snakes are revered as being holy, and others, they're revered as the opposite. For example, Egyptian mythology. But especially within the Western world, snakes are hated because they're seen as the symbol for evil. Since due to the whole Christian story of the in the Garden of Eden of Eve being tempted by Satan, which manifested as a snake, blah blah blah. So I can see why people that dislike snakes dislike them. They see them as evil entities or symbolism of evil entities, and I look past that. Of course, I'm not that narrow-minded or short-sighted. No, I know better, and snakes deserve to live too. They gotta eat too and whatnot. And I'm just fascinated by snakes. I'd love to do a live feeding of a snake once, just to throw a duck or something in an anaconda's cage or so on, just to see it feed up close and personal. But yeah, in any case, that's it on APEP. Nothing else to say. Yeah, Apap is thanking me right now. He says, thank you, very grateful for the attention. He humbly requests that I cover more of him, although he knows that that's not going to happen based on what I'm thinking. He can read my mind superficially. And yeah, he's pretty much leaving. David B says he has a snake. Okay, what kind of snake? What experience is asking me. Did the abusive rituals towards Apet give him more power? In a certain way, yes, he says. In a certain way, yes. Okay, because even bad attention, even negative attention, as we all know, is still attention. It's like saying that there's no such thing as bad news. Even bad news is also news. Okay, even if someone's mentioned in a negative context, that person is still mentioned. So it still gives, you know, it still gives their name a certain level of power. You have a ball python. Okay, interesting. Yeah, in any case, I love snakes. I'm fascinated by snakes. Just the same way I'm fascinated about the occult. That doesn't mean that I enter a snake cage or that I specifically want a snake around me or on my arm or something. No. But I am fascinated by snakes. Santik says, how do I feed her? Are you asking me or are you asking David B? And thing is not a her, Apep is a him. Oh, you're asking him. How do you feed her? With mice, he says, still young. Uh, okay. Yeah, that's normal. Most people, if you just look up on YouTube snake feedings, you'll see that most people feed their snakes small rodents like mice and whatnot. And I don't know, maybe if it's bigger, consider a rabbit or something. Oh, okay. I am going to move on. Let me see who else I can cover. If there's someone that I forgot to cover. Yeah. Let me cover Beelzebub. Beelzebub was a Philistine god turned demon. Read more about him here. Planet Mercury, zodiac sign Gemini, 24 degrees. Deals with everyday things and is especially interested and good for learning, all things education wise. So yeah, let's continue. Beelzebub or Beelzebul is a name derived from a Philistine god formerly worshipped in Ekron and later adopted by some Abrahamic religions as a major demon. The name Beelzebub is associated with the Canaanite god Baal. But they're not one and the same, of course. Hold on, let me see if I have an article on Beelzebub. Which I do, but it's a video in which I discuss Beelzebub. So yeah, have to improvise as usual. Let me just look up on his thingies. Yeah. In theological sources, predominantly Christian, Beelzebub is sometimes another name for the devil, similar to Satan. He's known in demonology as one of the seven princes of hell. The Dictionnaire Infernal describes Beelzebub as being capable of flying, known as Lord of the Flyers or Lord of the Flies. Hebrew Bible, the source of the name Beelzebub is in 2 Kings, specifically the passage in the Bible written Baal-zebub, referring to a deity worshipped by the Philistines. The Hebrews called him the Prince of Demons. The title Baal, meaning Lord in Ugaritic, was used in conjunction with the descriptive name of a specific god. Opinions differ on what the name means. In one understanding, Baal-zebub is translated literally as Lord of the Flies. It was long ago suggested that there was a relationship between the Philistine god and cults of flies, referring to view them as pests feasting on excrement. Appearing in the Hellenic world, such as Zeus, Apio, Homios, or Miagros. This is confirmed by the Ugaritic text, which shows Baal expelling flies, which are the cause of a person's sickness. According to Francisco Saracino, 1982, the series of elements may be inconclusive evidence, but the fact that in relationship to Baal-zebub, the two constituent terms are here linked, joined by a function that is typical of some divinities attested in the Mediterranean world, is a strong argument in favor of the authenticity of the name of the god of Ekron and of his possible therapeutic activities, which are implicit. Alternatively, the deity's actual name could have been Baal-zebub, Lord of the Heavenly Dwelling, and Baal-zebub was a derogatory pun used by the Israelites, etc., etc. Testament of Solomon. In the Testament of Solomon, Beelzebul appears as the prince of the demons and says that he was formerly a leading heavenly angel who was associated with the star Hesperus, which is the normal Greek name for the planet Venus, as an evening star. Seemingly, Beelzebul here is synonymous with Lucifer. Beelzebul claims to cause destruction through tyrants, to cause demons to be worshipped among men, to excite priests to lust, to cause jealousies in cities and murder, and to bring on war. The Testament of Solomon is an Old Testament pseudegraphical work purportedly written by King Solomon, in which Solomon mostly describes particular demons whom he enslaved to help build a temple with substantial Christian interpolations. But that's obvious bullshit, okay? When referring to Beelzebul, we're referring to the pagan god, Baal-zebul, and not to Lucifer, because they're not one and the same, obviously. That's enough from thingy. Then that's enough from Wikipedia. So yeah, in terms of what Beelzebub has to offer, he appears as a giant bee. That's his general appearance. The other appearance that he has is also similar to Belphegor, a demonic-like creature, scaly with pointy tail and horns and whatnot, blah blah blah. Beelzebub is very skilled. I will say that right away. And like I said, he deals with everyday matters, and he offers wealth, mastering scientific and occult sciences. So all things occult wise, as well as higher sciences, you name it, he can help you with those things. He's mercurial in nature, 24 degrees in Gemini, and yeah, he is a craftsman when it comes to doing what he does, and also a perfectionist, very detail conscious and whatnot, and can teach you clairvoyance, very much so, like no other. Also very good for wealth. And yeah, honestly, Beelzebub's power surprised me, okay? I'm not gonna lie. I didn't expect him to be that strong, but yeah, he is. He's a heavy hitter, big boy, pagan wise. Um, Beelzebub, when appearing in that demonic form, he's also surrounded by flames, could be regular or black flames. He's not the only entity that appears like that. Oriens also has a tendency to appear like that and whatnot. And of course, Belphegor, but Belphegor does not have flames surrounding him. Oh, so yeah, long story short, similar to Belphegor, Beelzebul is also just a Philistine, a chronic god called turned into a demon, unjustly so, unjustly equated or aligned with Lucifer, which is not the case. So yeah, that is what Beelzebul offers. So yeah, Anyone that wants to work with him is more than welcome. He is welcome. He says he welcomes all. He expects quality for quality, of course. And if you bond well with him, he will showcase his true potential. He'll unlock his true potential and show you what he's got. Does anyone have any questions relating to Beelzebul? Balzebul. David B says, any drawback in working with him or just energy wise? No drawback, really. It will just take a toll on you, depending on how many spirits you work with. Oh. Funny thing, my grandma at one point stopped talking to my family because of the snake. That's a good one. Itomansky Day Chief is just come online or is only just commenting. Is he the same with Belial? No. I already stated, okay? Beelzebul or Balsebul is a pagan god. Belial is a fallen angel. So no Belial, no Lucifer, no Satan. None of that bullshit. Pagan god. Any other questions on Balzebul or Beelzebub? 10 seconds to ask questions. Otherwise, I'm going to continue. David B, does he have a sigil? No, like I said, this accounts for practically every pagan god. You don't need to use a sigil, especially with them. A sigil refers, people use sigils, occultists and magicians use sigils when working with angels and with demons because it's more Judaistic and more, how should I put this, more Solomonic in nature. But these are pagan spirits, man-made, like egregores, hypercharged egregores, so a sigil isn't necessary. You could create a sigil if you want a self-made sigil by using a Hebrew rose cross, but it's really not necessary. If so, you'd only be doing so for good measure. So that is it, a picture or a small statue of the entity that you can buy at a flea market or whatever would serve the same purpose. Oh, just talking about all these guys is surrounding me with energy. I can see the energy just moving up and down around me. Okay, moving on. No one has any questions about Baalzebul or Beelzebub. So I'm going to move on to Moloch. Moloch is the biblical name of a Canaanite god associated with child sacrifice. The name of this deity is also sometimes spelled Molech, Milkom, or Malkam. The name Moloch results from a dysphemic vocalization in the Second Temple period of a theonym based on the root MLK, king. There are a number of Canaanite gods with names based on this root, which became summarily associated with Moloch, including biblical Malkam, great king, or Milkom, which appears to refer to a god of the Ammonites, as well as the Tyrian Melkart and others. Rabbinical tradition depicted Moloch as a bronze statue heated with fire into which victims were thrown. This has been associated with reports by Greco-Roman authors on child sacrifices in Carthage to Baal Hamon, especially since archaeological excavations since the 1920s have produced evidence for child sacrifice in Carthage, as well as inscriptions including the term MLK, either a theonym or a technical term associated with child sacrifice. In Interpretatio Graeca, the Phoenician god was identified with Cronus due to the parallel mytheme of Cronus devouring his children. But that's bullshit, of course. Otto Eisfeld in 1935 argued that MLK was not to be taken as a theonym but as a term for a type of fire sacrifice, and that Le Molech as a milk sacrifice had been reinterpreted as the name of a Canaanite idol following the Deuteronomic reform under Josiah. According to Eisfeld, the 7th century reform abolished the child sacrifice that had been happening. Moloch has been used figuratively in English literature, from John Milton's Paradise Lost to Allen Ginsberg's Howl, to refer to a person or thing demanding or requiring a very costly sacrifice. Let me see. Biblical mentions. The vocalization Molech occurs 8 times in the Masoretic text, predominantly 5 times in Leviticus. And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord. Again, thou shalt say to children of Israel, whoever he be in of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. And it just goes on. The practice of passing through the fire, Abar Bayesh, associated with the name Molech or Moloch in the citations above, also occurs without reference to Moloch in Deuteronomy, and so on. Let me see if there is anything else. No, there is nothing else mentioned. Okay, as far as I know. So yeah, I'm going to discuss Moloch. David B says, I guess he didn't really want or like the child sacrifice. Exactly. Children were sacrificed to him, he says. I thought that wasn't the case, but I'm thinking about another entity, which I'm also going to cover. Specifically Adramalech or Anamalech. But yeah, with Adramalech, that was myth. That something different was meant. But Moloch has just told me, by the way, Moloch appears as a gigantic cow standing on 2 legs. That's also the way he's depicted in Le Dictionnaire Infernal, the grimoire, the infernal dictionary in French, with a crown and a royal robe and a scepter in his hand. And he says they did unfortunately sacrifice children to him. Not that he approves of it. He didn't want it, but it's not like they asked him. They just started making sacrifices, and in his time, you needed to take what you can get. And yeah, it's horrible, of course. They did indeed sacrifice their children to Moloch. So yeah, let's move on to the occult properties now that we know a bit about Moloch. Moloch in the Kabbalah is equated with the half ruler of the top sphere of the tree of death, or the Sitra Ara. He shares rule with that sphere with Satan, and they say that they both rule over it, and that's why that's why it's called Tomiel, and Tomiel stands for duality or division. So it makes sense to have two rulers. Moloch was a Canaanite god turned demon and is Kabbalistically seen as part ruler of the cliff of Tomiel. Planet Mars, zodiac sign Aries, 22 degrees. Description: general Martian affairs, e.g., offense and defense, is honest and just, however. So yeah. Itomansky Day Chief is asking what offerings Moloch likes. Moloch likes weapon-based offerings and anything that you're willing to offer him that you would offer yourself. He says, so yeah, that's it on Moloch. Moloch is Martian, 22 degrees in Aries. So that's it. And in terms of what he can offer, protection, he can offer you offensive things too, destroying someone and blah, blah, blah. Other things too, he says, of a general nature, but mundane, everyday things, yeah. Improving one's quality of life a bit overall, but to a lesser extent. Is he a friend with Satan, or are they like rivals? So we are. Satan says we are rivals, but in a friendly way. We have no problem discussing things with each other. It's just in our nature, kabbalistically speaking, to be dualistic in terms of rulership of our sphere, appointed sphere. So that's it. So yeah, anyone have any other questions on Moloch or Molech or Melech? Malak. David B says if it's dualistic, isn't one good and bad? No, good and bad does not come into play here. No, dualistic or dualism simply means segregation. It's the opposite of unity. The opposite of unity, so being one, is to be dualistic. That means being separate or segregated. But there is no unity. So that's what that sphere represents. And it's the top sphere on the tree of life. It's one of the spheres that I never had a chance to visit, I think. Or I either visited it and I forgot about it, since I only visited it once, maybe, if I did do so. So that's what it means, and that's why they both rule over. It's a true testament to the nature of that sphere. It stands for division, um, division, and it stands for duality. For example, if someone in a household is, if a household is dualistic, that means that people living in said household are not seeing eye to eye. They're basically opponents of one another. For example, a dualistic marriage is a marriage where husband and wife don't see eye to eye. The relationship is more opponent-like based, so they contradict each other. One likes apples, the other one likes oranges, and so on. Any other questions? Does anyone have any other questions? No one has any other questions. I'm assuming it's almost 6 a.m. in my location. The sun will be coming up in an hour or so. Oh, nothing, nada, zip. No one has anything else. Okay, so let's continue. Let me see if I have. Yeah. So I'm going to move on to Ra. Ra, also translated to Re, is the ancient Egyptian deity of the sun. By the 5th dynasty in the 25th and 24th centuries BC, he had become one of the most important gods in the ancient Egyptian religion, identified primarily with the noon sun. Ra was believed to rule in all parts of the created world, the sky, the earth, and the underworld. He was the god of the sun, order, kings, power, and the sky. Ra was portrayed as a falcon and shared characteristics with the sky god Horus. At times, the two deities were merged as Ra Horakti, Ra, who is Horus of the two horizons, meaning. In the New Kingdom, when the god Amun rose to prominence, he was fused with Ra into Amun Ra. The cult of Menephtah's bull, the cult of Menephtah's bull, an embodiment of Ra, had its center in Heliopolis, and there was a former burial ground for the sacrificed bulls north of the city. All forms of life were believed to be created by Ra, and some accounts humans were created from Ra's tears and sweat, hence the Egyptians called themselves the cattle of Ra. In the myth of the celestial cow, it is recounted how mankind plotted against Ra and how he sent his eye as the goddess Sekhmet to punish them. Okay, and now for me, the Egyptian solar god Ra, planet Mars, zodiac sign Aries, 4 degrees, description general Martian affairs, and it's very proud and fanatical. Yeah, that's Ra. So yeah, Ra is Martian, corresponds to 4 degrees in Aries, and no, despite the fact that he was a sun god, that does not mean that he automatically is solar. No, he is Martian, and working with him does bring a certain amount of misfortune, minor misfortune, along with him. But the rest, Ra is very proud, very exuberant. So yeah, he really is the god of kings and whatnot, and behaves in the same way a king would, very proud and unyielding, and nevertheless, he's still Martian. So that is it. So he can help with general things like offense and defense and so on and so forth. He can also help to a certain extent with money, but to a lesser extent, significantly lesser extent. And that's what Ra deals with. He was he was the main god of the Egyptians. And yeah, that is it. David B says very proud and fanatical. Yes, by proud and fanatical, I just explained what it means. Having pride, being proud of oneself, and fanatical in the sense of being extreme or willing to go to the extremes. That's what I mean by proud and fanatical. Does that mean also stubborn? Yes, it can mean stubborn. Like I said, the same way that kings were stubborn. You know how a king reacts, how medieval kings acted, and so on. They don't want to hear anything I don't want to hear anything. My will be done, like that. Ra is similar to that, not literally, but Ra is similar to that. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think. No one has any opinion on Ra. Couple more seconds. After that, I am going to move on. Since he is Martian, then he also likes weaponry as offerings, right? David B says. He says yes, but not so much. He prefers wealth-related items like money and gold and blah blah blah. He says a sword would be appropriate to place on his altar if one were to make offerings to him, but nothing, nothing excessive. That's pretty much it. Itamanski Deichi says next. Yeah, sure. We'll move on to the next one. Horus. Horus is one of the most significant ancient Egyptian deities. He was worshipped from at least the late prehistoric Egypt until the Ptolemaic kingdom and Roman Egypt. Different forms of Horus are recorded in history, and these are treated as distinct gods by Egyptologists. These various forms may possess possibly be different manifestations of the same multi-layered deity in which certain attributes or syncretic relationships are emphasized, not necessarily in opposition, but complementary to one another, consistent with how the ancient Egyptians were viewed, the multiple facets, how the ancient Egyptians viewed the multiple facets of reality. He was most often depicted as a falcon, most likely a lanner falcon or Eaner falcon. Let me see. No, a lanner falcon or peregrine falcon, or as a man with a falcon head. The earliest forms, recorded forms of Horus is the tutelary deity of Nekhen in Upper Egypt, who is the first known national god, specifically related to the ruling pharaoh who in time came to be regarded as a manifestation of Horus in life and Osiris in death. The most commonly encountered family relationship describes Horus as the son of Isis and Osiris, and he plays a key role in the Osiris myth as Osiris's heir and the rival to Set, the murderer of Osiris. In another tradition, Hathor is regarded as his mother and sometimes as his wife. Horus served many functions, most notably being a god of kingship and the sky. That's enough on Horus. In regards to what Horus has to offer, Horus is Sagittarian. So he corresponds to 29 degrees in Sagittarius, and he is therefore Jupiterian. And Horus is also inanimate, similar to Tiamat. Horus can barely talk. It's like he's really more in tune with his animalistic. He's more in touch with the falcon, his falcon side than his thingy side. But you'll still be able to make sense of what he's saying, okay? Telepathic communication, it's also plays a big role. I can hear what he's thinking, but it doesn't he doesn't literally speak. It's like he's semi-mute. For the rest, he can offer one artistic talents and in abundance. For the rest, he has a strong Capricornian influence, so Saturnian influence, very disciplined, a lot of willpower, and provide focus and whatnot. Uh, Let me see. So Horus is also good to work with. He's no small fry. Horus, like I said, that's what Horus offers to the average individual. Horus can also offer money or help someone with money and an abundance even. Yeah. And that's pretty much what Horus offers, okay? So Horus is also a jack of trades, of all trades, but yeah, that shouldn't be a surprise based on how significant he is. And that is it. That is it. David B says, I'm starting to understand the offerings based on the planet. Okay, good for you. So that's it. Horus will be the last deity that I'll be covering. It's enough. It's been enough. I've been streaming for 2 hours now, and I think I'm done with pagan entities. I've read at one point Ra and Horus merged with only lower wives. Yeah, it's possible. I think that's where Ra Horquis comes from. I'm not sure. David B. They used to, in certain civilizations, they used to do that. They merged gods with each other and pagan deities with each other. Another example that I can give you, even across civilizations, is let's see, I forgot what his name was called, but I recall vaguely that a Greek deity was also merged with a with an Egyptian deity, I think. Santix Menesosa says, I'm going to sleep. Goodbye, Morino, and you all. Yeah, bye, Santix. Enjoy your well rest. Just get a good rest, good night's sleep, or just rest well. David B says, yes, the new kingdom, yes. I forgot the name, damn it. There was an Egyptian, a Roman deity, or a Greek deity that was focused that was merged with another deity that ruled the outworld. They simply mixed it together. Uh, in any case, similar to how Egypt, how Amun and Ra were fused into Amun Ra, became Amun Ra. They fused deities together. In any case, yeah, that's it. Does anyone have any questions on Horus as well as any other spirit that I've mentioned or any other pagan god? So let me know. No one. David B says, does it create a new one where they fuse together? No, not really. Both, what happens is that both are capable of displaying that form, and one has a bit of the traits of the other one and whatnot. Occult Experience says, can I ask a question about the topics from yesterday, Greek pagan gods? Yes, ask any question. Since I'm pretty much done with the topic, then you can ask questions even that are off topic. Ask whatever the hell you want. Itomansky Day Chief is asking me whether I've mentioned Prometheus. Yes, but that was yesterday. You need to re-listen to the entire stream yesterday in order to listen to what I say about Prometheus. Up, 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 up. Let me know. Let me know. So yeah, right now I am not doing anything whatsoever right now. So if there are any questions, just shoot. Any questions whatsoever? Any questions? Itomansky Deichief is asking me what the god Baal is good for, or I mean the Goetic spirit Baal. Baal is Martian, and he also so he covers primarily teaching you how to wield weapons of war, so how to master weaponry and how to work with weaponry, and generally speaking, offense and defense, protection and defense, and offense to destroying and whatnot, and acquiring money and finances. But that's the financial part comes in second. I need to point out that Bale is honest, and Bale also states that he is not tremendously skilled in offense and defense. The thing that he excels in is weapons of war. So teaching you how to wield or how to work with a weapon. Occult Experience is asking me, is Hypnos a real Greek god? Can the spirit help someone become a hypnotist? And Itomansky Daichi says, yes, I work with hypnosis and she helped you sleep. Hypnosis is the personification of sleep I'm seeing here online. So yeah, yes, she's a real goddess. David B says, I think based on civilization, there are infinite number of pantheons. No, I don't think they're infinite. There are just a lot. Period. Maybe dozens of them, thousands of them. That's it. Hypnos doesn't literally refer to hypnotism. Hypnos refers to, literally says in Greek mythology, hypnos is the personification of sleep. The Roman equivalent is known as somnus. His name is the origin of the word hypnosis. So yeah, that's it. Questions? Nothing, no questions whatsoever. David B says, what are the drawbacks with Agaris? Agaris, it all depends on the individual, but generally speaking, no drawbacks with Agaris. Agaris deals with languages, he can help you master a language and so on. But he wouldn't be my first choice, he knows that. But the rest, Agaris is friendly, appears transparent-ish in nature with and as far as I remember, Agaris is a lunar spirit, yeah. And he has a watery or a blue aura around him. Itomansky Deichiv is asking me what's a good water spirit or deity. Uh, a good water spirit or deity would be. I'm sorry for the yawning. I'm not really tired, but yeah, my body is reacting to the fact that it will be sunrise soon. Oh, I'm already hearing birds chirping outside. A good water spirit or deity would be Gabriel, the Archangel Gabriel, or at the very least Raziel. Occult experience is someone works exclusively with angels to fulfill his desires. Is he still on the left-hand path? No, not really. Okay, he's just neutral like me. Even if you just work with angels, the paths are not, it's not black and white, but again, never bother yourself with these stupid titles, left-hand path and right-hand path. I don't classify myself as anything. I'm just neutral, period. So yeah, anyone have any questions? Anyone have any questions for me? David B says, so you're in the middle hand path. That's a good one. No, I'm in no path. I don't follow any path. Itomansky Deichi is asking me, what does Oriel do? Oriel specializes in astrology and knowledge of the universe. I have an article on Oriel. Hold on. Yeah, give me a, oh crap. Just give me a second. There's the link to my article on Oriel. So yeah, knock yourself out. Any other questions? Anyone have any questions? David B says, is it really necessary to have an altar for a spirit that I work with? No, you can work with a spirit just by summoning him once and so on and making one-time offerings, but don't expect tremendous results or worthwhile results whatsoever. Someone I haven't seen before, Eric Gully, is asking me what's a demon for gambling. A demon for gambling. I don't suggest gambling, so yeah, I can't recommend you any demon for gambling. Itomansky Deichi says, have you worked with the Fenrir wolf? No. No, Fenrir is mythological and does not refer to a spirit per se. David B says alter is more like long term or to strengthen it. Alter is long term as well as to strengthen it. Yeah. I don't know if you've read this article. I have an article called The Significance of an Altar, or a YouTube video called The Significance of an Altar. Hold on, let me. Significance of an altar. Let me see. No, I only have a YouTube video. Hold on. Hold on, David B. Let me copy and paste my YouTube video. There you go in the description below. I mean, in the chat tab. Eric Gully says, "What should you offer a demon? All depends with on whom you work with." Again, anyone have any questions whatsoever? If no one has questions, then I'm going to close off the live stream. That will be it then. Oh, hold on for a second. I'll get the questions in a second. Um, Occult Experience is asking me what my opinion is on holy water found in churches. Does it really contain holy properties or is it a church gimmick? It's a church gimmick, it's bullshit. Holy water has no energy really attached to it. No, unless they combat something that automatically believes that holy water is is really touchable, or is really hazardous to them. Itumansky Day Chief says what deity is good for cleansing oneself, like aura and chakras. Cleansing oneself, a ritual in itself is already enough. You don't have to work with the spirit. Or there are several rituals. The lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram is also a cleansing. A cleansing. It is a cleansing ritual. In my e-occult course, I also have a cleansing ritual included. Banishing slash cleansing yourself astrally from negative energies. Eric Gully says, what have you benefit from spirits? You mean how have I benefited from spirits? And that's a way too general question, okay? Just look up my website and my YouTube video if you want to know what how I benefited from spirits. So yeah, let me know again. Okay. Uh, Itomansky Deichi says, do you have any baneful rituals or spells? No. I don't have any baneful rituals or spells. All of my destructive work is done by spirits. Okay, enough streaming. I am done. I'm gonna call it a day, and yeah, I will see you guys some other time. Gukun House says hello, greetings, Marino. Great and interesting stream again. Do you already have a topic in mind for the next stream? No, I don't have a topic in mind for the next stream. Occult Experience says thanks. It was a great session. David B says thanks and see you. Bye, you guys at 6:17 in my location. Itomansky Dejiv is asking me, are spirit animals on par with celestials? No. Eric Gully says, I smell bullshit. Yeah, you're smelling yourselves, you piece of shit. You can go fuck yourself. I don't have time for bullshitters. Bye-bye. Okay, and that is it. I just took care of that piece of shit that smelled themselves. And we're done. See you later, guys. Bye.